Okay, there are two ways that I use clippers. One is to get something louder. The other is to trim peaks at the end of a mixdown. Let me show you what I mean. Alright, so the first reason I use clippers is to make things louder. So usually when I put something into my project, like a hi-hat, for example, or any kind of instrument, I gain stage it with DP Meter 5, which is a metering plugin, but you can also use it for gain staging, and it's awesome. So once that's done, if the signal is still not loud enough, like if, for example, if this hi-hat is not loud enough, then I reach for my clipper. This one is loud enough, but for the sake of teaching, I'm just going to pretend it isn't. So this is the hi-hat. When I open up my clipper, this is K-clip. Like there are a bunch of others, but I like this one. But there's standard clip as well, which is by So Audio Tools. Works basically the same way, but I prefer K-clip. So usually what I do, when I open it up, I make sure this is linked, and then that ensures that when I adjust the input level, the output level adjusts accordingly, so I don't get an increase or a decrease in volume in my headphones. That way, it allows me to accurately hear any clipping once it eventually starts clipping. So I'll show you what I mean. So when I turn this up, hang on. So about there, it's starting to lose the transient. So I'll back it off a bit because I don't want that. So that's how I make it louder. So now that the sound is intact, or it's not changed too much, then I unlink it and I adjust and I reset the output so it's loud. So yeah, I've adjusted the volume. And that is now 10.4 dB louder than it was, right? But actually I don't want that. So let's just turn that off for now. Yeah, so that's how I make sounds louder. It works really well with stabby sounds or like hits or things with like really lots of transients. So like hi-hats, percussion, synth plucks, stuff like that. You can do it with pads as well, but and basses and things, but you can't clip it as much. And to be honest, like a lot of the pads that I use these days tend to be loud enough, and I don't really want them super loud. So that's the first way I use clippers. The second thing I do, like once my mixdown's fully done, like let's just pretend it's all like it's not finished yet, but let's just pretend it is. I'll go through to every instrument and I'll pull out my clipper, and then I look at the threshold. So instead of making it louder, what I do is I pull the threshold down, and what this does, it you'll notice all these transients that are kind of a bit all over the place. There's one here. When I pull the threshold down, what it does, it'll start clipping them off depending where I set the threshold. So you can see the red line starting to come in there. And when I do this, it's the same principle. So I pull it down until I start hearing the sound change, and then I back it off. So yeah, it's about there, right? 10.4, 10.5-ish. And then, so I'll go through and do that with every instrument. So that shaves off all the unnecessary transients that are going to be, giving your mastering limiter a hard time, right? So lots of little clips are better than one big clip. Don't take my word for it. Try it yourself. You'll get a much better, much cleaner mix. Took me so long to learn this. Like, legendary lad on Threads showed me. His name's Elk Hearted. He makes great music. Go check him out. He put me onto a technique called clip to zero. With clip to zero, you can mix loud, and then when you're referencing against other tracks, you're hearing the same thing. And furthermore, when you go to do your mastering, it's not squashing your mix and like completely ruining it. Or, there were so many times where I'd do a mix and it was nice, and then when it went through mastering, it would just completely change it because I was mixing at such a low volume, and then I limit everything and all the quiet parts are loud all of a sudden. But when you mix with this technique, the clip to zero technique, that doesn't happen because you're mixing loud already. So when you go to do your mastering, you don't need to squash everything. So everything stays at the same volume, right? Because it's already squashed, essentially. So I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. All right, so the other thing I sometimes use, rarely, is like this soften knob, which is soft clipping. So in other words, saturation. But to be honest, usually when I want to saturate something, I use Decapitated by Sound Toys. So if you don't have a third-party clipper, you can use something in Logic, and it's called the tape delay, I think it is. Here. Yes. So if I turn that off for a second, the clip threshold here, you turn that down. Hold on a second. So you'd have to, let's turn the feedback off, turn this all the way down, and then if you reduce that, that's essentially like turning the threshold down, right? So like on here, oops, it's essentially just doing this. Turn it down with that. Actually sounds quite good too. Or if you want to turn it up, can you turn it up? No, you can't. That's it. But you can turn the threshold down, which is nice. So at the end of the mix, if you don't have another clipper on hand, you can clip with that. But just make sure you turn the delay time down, your feedback time, everything down, except for that. And make sure you turn your wet all the way up. And then you're good to go. So hopefully I did a good enough job explaining it to you. I'm not sure if I did. I've never had to teach that before. But if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll also link below that series by Metrics. It's called Clip to Zero, and if you've got the time, it's well worth the watch. If you're a beginner producer, you're probably going to have a bit of homework to do during that series, but it's worth it. Like in the end, like some stuff in there, like no one told me that. Like once I learned the Clip to Zero technique, it really, really, really elevated my mixes, and that was only like probably 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago that happened, and my mixes it was like chalk and cheese. So learning how to use clippers properly and learning all the techniques that come along with getting loudness in a mix. Yeah, clipping, so good. But yeah, if you're still here, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.